I'm talking about attainable housing for people that are working to make this place function, live. I actually think if you look at this community and we're driving around it, I mean, this is a pretty dense place, and I think that actually a lot of the zoning that we've had here in our communities, and Nantucket's a little ahead of the curve than elsewhere in the district, but the dense village of Nantucket or Provincetown or Chatham or Osterville, you couldn't build that under current zoning, and I think this 1 acre zoning with 1 acre and a septic system for a 3-bedroom house has been a real challenge, and I think we're seeing that with big challenge seeing that around the water quality. Wastewater is just a huge issue, massive issue on the Cape. Big issue
massive
here.
issue there.
Well, I would say as big of an issue as it is here. The difference on the Cape is the 15 towns on the Cape were sued by the Conservation Law Foundation for not complying with components of the Clean Water Act. And so they sort of stepped up to create...
But is that changing with what the administration we have now? Are they going to loosen up on that?
Probably not, because it's a lawsuit. So it's sort of not what the current administration in this case is not relevant. Cape Cod is a $4 billion wastewater problem, right? They need $4 billion of infrastructure. Yes, traditional sewering, but also some more innovative
Those are
models.
Jobs, though.
Those are jobs.
Those are infrastructure jobs.
You look at Nantucket, I think nearly additional $1 billion in needs here. On Martha's Vineyard, could be up to $2 billion. So what we're trying to do, what I've been trying to look at is, how do we, if we're going to just base this solely on property taxes and betterments, you're really only going to squeeze the people who are living here on fixed incomes, who may be land rich, but, who bought a long time ago, but who are cash poor. So I actually worked to propose this idea of a clean water trust for the islands and for Cape Cod. And this would look at a likely revenue source being the expansion of room occupancy tax that we're going to be taking up. So right now, if you stay in a Airbnb or in someone's vacation rental, you are not paying an excise on that. Whereas if you stayed at the Regatta Inn,
I'm going to fight you back a little bit on that. Why not give the...
We're driving by all these inns. This
exactly.
Is Regatta
give the
Inn,
inns the break.
The Martin Inn
Why
House.
not, instead of constantly taxing, finding ways to tax to create more jobs, to create another position that somebody has to have health care, and I mean, it continuously keeps coming. Why not give these guest houses a break and not charge them that? It's not that much money. And then let everybody be the same. Instead of trying to get more money out of the people who are doing Airbnb.
So what this
I know it has to be fair.
Yeah. So but this is something that the innkeepers and hotel owners have been really advocating for, is just, hey, make it fair.
Make it fair.
In sort of revenue parlance, we talk about this. This is sort of OPM, other people's money, right? So, that's why I think an excise like this is seen so favorably, because, we know what a demand it is for people to come here. You look at how much people are willing to spend to be here, and if we can't just take a little bit of that, have a local option for our communities, and for some of that to the state, for a town like Nantucket, for a town like Provincetown, for towns on Martha's Vineyard, having expansion of room occupancy is going to be a game changer in revenue for our communities, and is such that I think you're going to see sort of an unprecedented level of aid.
How much are we talking? What percentage is that we're looking at?
We're talking about, so for smaller communities on the Cape that don't have too many of these rentals, a town like Wellfleet's going to see like $500,000 in additional revenue.
What would a person have to pay? Percentage-wise?
5.9%.
So they would have to add that into their cost.
They would have to add that into
or
the
eat
cost.
it.
Yep. I think there's some questions about implementation, right? I think we shouldn't do it all at once. There's a local option component.
How sure are you of this actually passing?
So this is going to pass.
Okay.
This is something that the governor proposed a version of this in his budget. The Senate has voted in favor of this several times. The Senate president's in favor of it, and the Speaker of the House has also voiced support of it. So this is something that's happening. This is a train that's moving.
Yeah.
So my interest is making sure that we have something that meets is
different
relevant
towns
to our
would pay
community.
different percentage, or no?
No. So
everyone would pay 5.9.
Everyone would pay 5.9 to the state,
6%
and then
to the state.
there'd be a local option.
When is this going to happen?
If we take it up this fall, I think we're going to take it up the fall.
So next year
I
could
think
happen right
implementation is like the timeline's important.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also most concerned about the folks who do not the folks who, own homes that are, I'm most concerned about the people who do the shuffle, right? The people who move out of their home and live in a shack, right? To make it work out here.
Right.
I'm kind of curious if there should be some sort of exemption for that, or some sort of way to look at that.
I don't think so. Personally, I think you're getting into
You're getting into.
You got to make it even.
You got to make it even. You got to make it even.
Yeah, and you don't want the complications
Yeah.
either. I mean, okay, I got. So, by the way, how is the governor to work with?
The administration has been very helpful. I'm someone who kind of came out of that world. I worked for the Department of Public Health for 6 years.
Oh, that's right. I want to get into some of what you did.
So so I don't have too many complaints about the administration. He has some really great people who are working for the governor. Oh, I mean, he's totally a moderate Republican, and I think in contrast to what's going on at the national level, I mean, he's quite, it's quite a, we need more of this. I think I really wish that he was more courageous, and that there was some bigger proposals out there.
What kind?
I think looking at the education need that we have in this state.
Oh.
So our higher education has been underfunded
Yes.
chronically. I think you look at
But
things.
geez, that's more money. You see, people just don't want to pay more for anything. They don't want to pay more for anything. One guy stopped me on our way. I said, "Oh, I'm going to go pick you up," and he said, "Ask him why the state's budget is 50% Medicaid toward Medicaid. Is that true?"
It's 43%
43.
is Medicaid. If you add in all the health and human services, it's over 50%. It's just is solely healthcare and human services. It's a huge amount.
And why is that?
So we have seen. So Massachusetts historically has always had a really strong commitment to a mass health program.
Yeah.
The idea being, I'm a public health guy, so the idea here that, if the most vulnerable in your community and society are getting access to quality health care, you're going to improve lives, but also contain healthcare costs. Under sort of healthcare reform, Romney Care, Patrick Care that we implemented, we did a pretty good job of getting everyone access to health insurance. When the Affordable Care Act happened and came into effect in Massachusetts, the employer mandate under Romney Care was if you were an employer that had 49 or more employees, you had to provide health insurance. Under the Affordable Care Act, that goes down to 10 or more employees. And so increasingly mass health became a better option for people to go on to get health insurance. We're looking at, actually there's going to be a big effort this fall in the Senate and the House to really look at how do you shore up mass health. How do you contain some of these costs? I really look at this and say, all right, if we're spending this much money, we are spending much. 43% is more than many countries that have either a single payer or have some sort of a universal healthcare system. It's more than they're paying. So I'm kind of curious about how do you get at this in a different way. I think though that we have created such a knot in the complexity of our medical and healthcare system in the Commonwealth and in this country that sort of getting there, undoing that is no easy feat.
Now, if things turn out the way Trump would like, and he gets some sort of bill passed, he was talking about having states regulate their own. We're already regulated. Do you fear that people from other states would come here simply to use our health care system? Is that possible?
I'm not so sure about that. I think when people are sick or in their healthcare system,
one, even though think about it. If you're poor,
the big concern for the state, right, is that under a Trump plan or all these iterations of these plans that have been shooed around by the Republicans in D.C. is a move to change the Medicaid system from a reimbursement system to a block grant. So for Massachusetts, this would basically the state gets a chunk of money and that's it. So for us, that would mean probably about like a $2 billion hole in a $40 billion budget. by the second year of implementation. So it would be catastrophic from a budgeting perspective, let alone all the people, all the services that would have to be cut.
Yeah.
I think we know that when you invest in people's healthcare, like investing in people's education, there's a really good return there. Not only people's quality of life, but also looking at costs. And so I think where we need to go next is really looking at how do you make sure that we're you look at some of these preventative initiatives on the Cape. We actually had there's a fund, a prevention and wellness trust fund the legislature established to pool some monies to address issues like diabetes and hypertension. It's been remarkably successful. A $4 million investment on the Cape over 4 or 5 years has saved so much money. The challenge is
prevention is a pound of cure.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
we've known
so
that
basic.
forever.
Yeah, exactly.
It's basic, and yet people don't want to. They just don't want to get their heads around it.
Well,
why? That's why I think there should be single payer.
I'm right there with you, and I filed a bill that basically would move the state to a single payer system. So it's a bill that my predecessor filed. I refiled. Absolutely.
They'll have better checkups.
Yep.
Checkups will happen quicker. Things will get tighter. It'll be more organized.
Yep.
It just makes more sense.
I think what's important though is, and I try to be really honest about. I talked about that not in healthcare. I try to be honest that we've created such a mess that we're going to have to do a lot of work to undo that. So this is not something that'll happen overnight, but I think we need to be moving to.
Well, you're a young person. Okay, you're young.
I've got some time, right?
You've got some time, but you also know a lot of people. And most of the people you know, would you say that most of them would like to see a single payer?
Absolutely.